All right, Leigh. Why don't you talk to me about the two big remasters that came out recently?
So yeah, it's been a couple kind of dropped relatively recently from the same sort of time they came out previously, in a strange way. They seem to have both come out neck and neck at the same time over crossover generations. So I've been playing Mafia 2, which is a remaster as a part of a bundle, which was recently been released with three. This is very confusing already. Recently
It's
released with
extremely
three,
confusing, by the way.
uh, which is not a remaster, by the way. It's
No,
just that thing, but with if you buy it as part of the bundle, you get the DLC free. If not, you've just got the same game. This is in the middle, and a remake of the first one, which was originally a PlayStation 2 game, is coming out in August. So, but this has dropped now, and I don't think it's been done particularly well. It's got a lot of seems more like an upscale Mafia than it
hmm
does kind of a solid remaster, and it seems to have brought along a lot of technical issues that I don't quite remember having, like egregious like pop-ins and a lot of glitches and stuff like that.
hmm
Um, Obviously, that's something that will be straightened out over time, but it's I think it's quite a disappointing remaster because Mafia 2 is actually a very good. Oh, Mafia 3 is a good game, but it kind of extended a lot longer than it probably should have done. I think of the three, Mafia 2 is the most solid
hmm
of the series. So that's still there. If you never dipped in before, it's definitely worth dipping in.
hmm
But it's a bit disappointing they didn't do the work that they could have done
Yeah, it seemed
on Mafia.
when they announced this, I was like, is the Mafia series really as prestigious as they're making this out to be? Was my first impression. I was like, I know people like those games, and Mafia
Mm.
2 probably, like you said, stands out as the one that most people like the most. I think 3 got, like you said, was well received, but yeah, was definitely it was a very busy open world. Like it was just busy work, and you
Mm.
kind of had to do some of that in order to get to what was really good about that game, which was the story, and
The
the
juicy
characters and
stuff.
stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mafia 2 was kind of Mafia 2 the one that kind of did nothing with the open world. It was basically there to have you drive back and forth and get
There's
arrested if you run a red light.
there's sort of an element of that. There was a bit more to do. That sounds more like you're talking about LA Noire, actually. But
Oh,
there was a little bit more to do. There wasn't it wasn't packed with stuff to do, but there was things to do in and around the world. But
okay.
yeah, it was maybe thinner than you would expect, I would say.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I just remember it just not clicking with me. It was
no.
I don't know what else was going on at that time, but that one didn't click with me, and I tried to get through as much of 3 as I could, but ended up falling off of it because I just found it very repetitive. But
Mm,
yeah, like you said, anyway, this trilogy they put out
mm,
only is basically the full version of Mafia 3, no remaster, just all the DLC.
mm-hmm,
A remaster of the second one,
mm,
and then the what they're doing with Mafia 1, they're calling more of a
mm.
remake, right?
Yeah, well, it is a
Yeah.
complete remake from the ground up, which does look actually incredibly good. So this one, even more so, stands like a sore thumb
Well, yeah,
because
and
it
I'm
looks.
also the weirdness that they're releasing this. Like they should have had the first one done before they
Yeah,
put this out. Like it should have been in a whole
yeah,
package, or and certainly if this Mafia 2 remaster is kind of not living up to people's expectations, it would have at least taken some heat off of it. I feel
yeah. It's
like,
not a very strong in. If that's going to be your entry to what the trilogy is supposed to be,
yeah,
it's not your best kind of marketing thing
yeah.
to go with. Probably the worst looking one first, or the worst
And I feel
playing one
like
first.
even from like a if you're looking to get the whole story, it's going to be a little
Mm,
weird to jump in the middle and then
mm.
uh
Yeah. Well, I
So,
think,
so specifically, you also wanted to compare this with Saints Row the Third Remaster, right?
I certainly do.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always liked the Saints Row games. They've always been ridiculous games.
Mm-hmm.
They're designed to be fun. You're not meant to take them seriously in any way, shape, or form. And
No, I mean this is this is the dildo melee weapon game.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Now, although 4 is fun, it's probably a little bit too much. So it's safe to say the pinnacle of the series is 3. 3 is definitely the best of all of them.
Well, there's definitely some people that will
stupid.
say 2 was the best.
I don't know.
That's funny.
I don't know.
I think the first one was like the best one.
Really?
Yeah.
Let's just all disagree completely. That would be fun. This would be
Like,
great
I'd say maybe
content.
two,
Great
like, one and
podcast
two
material,
together.
guys.
But
I heard a lot of great things about this Mafia 2 remaster. I don't know what you're talking about.
But yeah, anyway, my favourite, let's put it this way, my favourite is the third one because it strikes the ridiculousness balance with kind of, there's still an essence of 1 and 2 in 3 that's completely gone by the time you're Superman in 4. But anyway, so the kind of, it's that weird thing, and you don't get games like this that are this purposefully stupid anymore, if that makes sense. You just don't get them.
Right. It's not only is it stupid, but it absolutely knows how dumb it is and is going for it.
Yeah, 100%.
and I think for this series, that's what kind of like ruined the series a bit for me.
Well, then just go play Grand Theft Auto. Seriously, if you.
Yeah, but I like the whole like in the first one, you're rebuilding your street and stuff, and you're like slowly working on and doing that, and it was still mainly like this kind of thing, and then as it progressively got like more outlandish with everything, I was like, oh, what happened to this?
Yeah, 4 should have been probably a DLC more than it was in a complete different game. And then by the time you get to Agents of Mayhem, well, forget Agents of Mayhem,
geez.
it's fine. Yeah. Oh god, yeah. Anyway, nevertheless, this has come out and they've done, for something that's been dropped kind of with very little fanfare. I think we only heard about this a couple of months ago. They've done a ridiculous amount of work on it. They've kind of almost kind of completely kind of retextured the whole thing. Like there's been like Digital Foundry's done a big dive on it. If you want to look into the real technical stuff on it, it's best to go and have a look at what they talk about. They kind of raved about it a lot, but it's a complete and utter overhaul, and it kind of like very modern lighting. They've completely redone all the textures. They've kind of, you know, you've got that kind of strange, slightly heightened, hyper-realistic character models. That's still there to some extent, but they've kind of retextured, kind of defined all the faces and stuff. So they're still quite slightly outlandish, but it looks very much more like a modern game now.
The faces were realistic in the original versions. I thought they were always kind of a little stylized and cartoony.
That's what I mean. Hyper realistic. That's what I mean. Kind of just that heightened kind of big lantern jawed type things. Yeah, so they still got that slightly exaggerated thing, so it's never going to look kind of photorealistic. But within that, they've kind of put much more realistic textures on all of the things. They've redone the lighting, they've redone the building. I think they've basically redone every asset that's in the game, completely overhauled it, water, physics, and stuff like that. And
how's it perform?
This is the thing. So it was notoriously bad on consoles.
Yeah.
Now I remember playing the 360. I think there was literally consistent screen tear on that thing, and it never really pulled much out of 20 FPS. On consoles, these are all have a 30 FPS lock, but you've got an option within them on consoles to unlock that to kind of a variable frame rate. Now, obviously, the bases don't hit that; just stick to the 30. PS4 Pro is variable. Apparently, it sits about 40 to 50 kind of FPS, which is weird. But if you got the X, it's almost a consistent 60. With a few drops when it gets heavy, really heavy, like it does, because there's a lot of carnage in there. Mm-hmm. But it's a pretty consistent 60, which is kind of, you don't really get that in console.
No, not
open world games
as much as you'd like to.
Yeah. I mean, considering the stuff you can do, like with the tanks and stuff like that, and the flying around with all the physics and stuff.
Yeah.
The fact that it kind of it's like not probably about 80-90% hitting it, so it's a viable thing to play it unlocked. So they've done a lot of work on that one. They probably kind of patch up the Pro one to meet it, so it's probably worth keeping an eye on that as well. But if you want to play it kind of the way it probably should have been in the first place, then this is probably the way to go.
Yeah, well,
it's
great to know that a 10-year-old game is finally running well on consoles.
Right? You know what I mean? But they've added a lot that it makes it impressive, enough that it makes it impressive that they've kind of got it kind of buffed to high sheen.
Yeah.
The only thing they haven't remastered is the humour, which is probably what was needed. That probably needs a bit of an upgrade.
I'm sure some of it still holds up, but some of it probably doesn't.
It's aged fantastically well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dildos, everybody.
Yeah.
Did they add dildos in Mafia 2?
No, I think you just are one if you buy it.
Oh, jeez. Oh, boy.
I just blacked out.
And
what did I say?
We'll be back in a minute with Gears Tactics. Thank you for joining us on this very special episode of Voxel Viewpoint. If you'd like to hear or see more, please consider subscribing to us on your favorite podcast app, subscribing to us on YouTube, or visiting voxelvoice.com, where all of our great content comes together in one place. Also check out the Voxel Voice Facebook group, where you can join in on the discussion with a great, like-minded community.